Hello everyone and welcome to this Blender tutorial where we will be creating this 3D cartoon stylized whale character. So we're going to start off by modeling a base mesh, and then we will be sculpting that base mesh to create this whale character. And then after that we will be setting up the whale model for texture painting, and then we are going to texture paint the whale. And then we will set up some lighting, and then we'll finish up the materials and do some rendering to get this really nice image that you can see here. And I will be using the Eevee render engine in this tutorial. And this tutorial is also very beginner friendly, so it's geared for beginners, so I'll be going very slowly and walking you through the entire process of the modeling and the sculpting and the texture painting. Now, if you've never done sculpting and texture painting before, then I do have beginner tutorials specifically on how to do sculpting and how to do texture painting, links in the description if you'd like to check out those tutorials, but this is beginner friendly, so I will be going very slowly and showing you the entire process. Now, I am also going to be using a drawing tablet for the sculpting and the texture painting. So I would recommend using a drawing tablet if you're able to, but I know not everyone has a drawing tablet, so if you don't have a drawing tablet or you're not able to get one, that is okay. You can use a mouse, but I do think it's a lot easier and more enjoyable to use a drawing tablet when doing sculpting and texture painting. Now, if you'd like to purchase a drawing tablet, I'll have Amazon links in the video description to some different tablets that I recommend, and those are Amazon affiliate links, so if you purchase something through the links, that'll help me out, but with no extra cost to you. So I will be using a display drawing tablet, so it's a tablet with an actual screen, so I can actually draw on the screen, but those are a bit more expensive, so if you only have like a pad tablet, one of those smaller tablets that you just draw on and look up at the screen, that would work totally fine as well. And if you'd like to purchase the project files for this tutorial, then you can purchase the project files over on my Gumroad store, and you can also get access to the project files if you join my Patreon page. And checking out my Gumroad store and Patreon page are great ways to help support me and this channel. You can also check out the YouTube memberships by clicking on that join button down there next to the subscribe button. That's another great way to help support this channel. And then just one more thing before we get started, I want to give a huge thanks to this video's sponsor, Sketchfab. Sketchfab is a 3D model marketplace where you can buy, sell, and even upload your own 3D models and preview them in your browser. You can also purchase models and assets from Sketchfab's huge 3D model store. Use the model inspector to preview the wireframe, matcap, textures, and more before you purchase. Check out Sketchfab with the link in the description. Alright, now there is one resource that I'm going to be downloading and using for the tutorial. So this is the Learner Park HDRI, and this is from polyhaven.com. So it's a free HDRI, and we are going to be using this in the world to get some nice lighting and reflections on our whale character. So links in the description if you'd like to download the free HDRI. And I'm going to be downloading the 1K version and the HDR version, and then I will download this. Alright, so here we are in a new scene in Blender. Now, as we're doing the tutorial, if you want to see my screencast keys, if you want to see the buttons that I'm pressing, they're going to be right down here in the corner so you can see what buttons I'm clicking. Now, I am going to be doing this tutorial in Blender Eevee, so right now let's just change this over. So right over here, if you go to the render properties on the render engine, I'm just going to click right here, and I'm going to change this to Blender Eevee. And then let's also save this Blender file, so I'm going to click on File, and then I will click on Save As. And I'm just going to save this in a folder on my computer as whale.blend, and I will click on Save As. So then as we're working on the project, you can just press Ctrl S, and Ctrl S will save the Blender file. Alright, so I now want to delete everything, so I'm going to double tap the A key to make sure everything is selected, and then I can press X to delete, and we want to just click on the delete. So before we do the sculpting, we need to create a base mesh that we can sculpt on. So I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go here to Mesh, and I'm going to add a UV sphere. And this is going to be the front of the whale. So I'm going to press the Tab key, and that will take me into edit mode, and then I will press S, and that's going to scale it, and then I'm going to hit Y to scale it on the Y axis, and I'm just going to bring it out just a little to about there. And then I can press the Tab key to go back to object mode. So I'm now going to press Shift A, I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to use a cube to model a base mesh for the back of the whale. So I'm going to press G to grab. Let's bring this over on the Y axis, and then I can press S, and we're going to scale that down. And one thing that I want to do real quick is close the timeline because we don't need the timeline. So I'm going to click right here when my mouse turns into the crosshair, and then I'll hold down the mouse key, drag down, and then let go, and that'll close the timeline. Alright, so I'm now going to press the Tab key, and the Tab key will take us into edit mode. So this object is going to be mirrored on either side. It's going to be the same. So I want to add a loop cut in here, and then we can delete one side, and then we can add a mirror modifier. So I'm going to press Control R. Control R will add a loop cut, and I'm going to left click and then right click so that the loop cut stays in the center there. So I'm now going to click right here to go to the face select mode, and then I'm going to click on this face. And then I'm going to press X to delete, and I want to delete the vertices. And that way it's going to delete half of the cube. So I can now click right over here on the modifier properties. Let's click on add modifier, and I'm going to go right down here and add a mirror modifier. And then let's also click on the clipping button, and that'll merge the center together. So we still have the face select turned on, so I'm going to click on this face right here, and then I can press G to grab, and let's bring it over on the Y-axis and stick it inside there. And then I can press the 3 on the numpad, and that's going to take me to side view. And then I'm going to hold down the Z button and move my mouse over to the wireframe and let go. And then I want to click right here to go to the vertex select. So I can now press A to deselect everything, and I'll press B for the box select. I'm just going to box select these vertices, and I can press G to grab, and I'm going to move them down, press A to deselect everything, and I'll press B for the box select, and I'm going to box select these vertices, and I can press G to grab, and I'm going to move these down here, and I'll scale them up a little bit. And then I want to add a loop cut right in here, so I'm going to press Control R to add a loop cut, and then I can left click, bring that over, and then left click again, and I want to put a loop right about there. And then I can press A to deselect everything, I'll press B for the box select, I'm just going to drag a box around those vertices, and I can press G to grab, and I'm going to bring them up. And then I'll press A to deselect everything, and I'll press the B key for the box select. Again, we're going to box select these vertices, and then I can press E to extrude. We're going to extrude this out. I can also press S to scale. Let's scale this down. And so this is going to turn into the tail for the whale. I'm also going to press the 7 on the numpad to go to top view, and I can press G to grab, just kind of move that in there, press A to deselect everything, and then I can press B for the box select, and I'm just going to drag a box around these vertices as well. I can press G to grab, kind of move them out, and then R to rotate, just kind of rotate them over a little bit. And then I can press 3 on the numpad again to go back to the side view. I'll press A to deselect everything. I'll press B for the box select, drag a box around those vertices. I can press E to extrude, and then S to scale, and R to rotate, and G to grab. So we are basically just going to create the tail kind of coming up like this. All right, just kind of bring that into place. I'll also press the 7 on the numpad to go to the top view, G to grab, and I'm going to make that a bit smaller. All right, 3 on the numpad again to go to the side view, and I can press E to extrude, and then S to scale, and R to rotate, and G to grab, and we're just going to move this into place, and then I'll press E to extrude again, just kind of rotate that over, stick it right up there. So this is what we have now. We have the back of the whale and the starting of the tail. So then I also want to press S to scale. Let's scale this on the Y-axis and make that a bit smaller. So I'm now going to hold down the Z button and go back into solid view and let go of the Z button, and then you can also see that this is a bit too big. So what I want to do is just select these vertices, and I can press G to grab, stick it in there, select this vertex as well, press G to grab, and stick it right in there. And then I'm going to press the tab key to go back into object mode. Now I want to smooth this out, so I'm going to give it a subdivision surface modifier. So I'm going to press Control 2. Control 2 is going to give this object a subdivision surface with the viewport and render both to 2 levels. And so now it is much more smooth. And then also I can select this object and shift select this object, and then using the object context menu, I'm going to click on Shade Smooth. So I use the W key to bring up the object context menu. That's because I use the right click select, but most people use the left click select. So with these objects both selected, you can just right click and then click on Shade Smooth. So I'm now going to model the tail. So let's just select this object right here, and I'm going to press the tab key to go into edit mode. And then I want to click right here to go to the face select, and then I can just select this face. And then I'm going to press 1 on the numpad, and that's going to take me to the front view. And then I need to hold down the Z button, move over to wireframe and let go so I can actually see that. So I'm now going to press E to extrude, and we're going to extrude this out, and then I will press R to rotate and G to grab, and we're going to stick this right up there. And let's also go back over here and let's see how this is looking. So I want to press S to scale, and let's scale this on the y-axis and make it a bit thinner. All right, just like that. And then also I'm going to hold down the Z button, go back into the solid view, and I want to click right here to go to the vertex select, and then I'm going to select this vertex, hold down the shift key and select this vertex. I can press G to grab, and I'm going to move those a bit closer. Then I can select this vertex, shift and select that vertex, and I can press G to grab, and I can bring it down on the Z axis, just bring that down a little bit. And also you can see this is just slightly low quality, and I do want it to be pretty high quality, especially when we start to sculpt it. So right over here on the subdivisions, I'm going to turn the levels viewport and render both up to 3, so that is more smooth. All right, so now I'm going to click right back over here to go to the face select, and I'm just going to select this face. And then again, I will press the 1 on the numpad to go to the front view. I can hold down the Z button and go over into the wireframe. So I'm now going to press E to extrude, and then S to scale, and R to rotate, just kind of rotate that up. And then I can press E to extrude and S to scale, and we're going to just make that shape. Then I can also press Control R right here. Control R will add a loop cut, and I can left click and then right click. And then I'm going to press S to scale, and let's scale that up a little bit. So I can now hold down the Z key, go back into the solid view, and you can see we have a very basic shape for the whale's tail there. Now also it's very thin right here, so what I'm going to do is select this face. Actually, I need to go right here to the face select. I can select this face, hold down the shift key, select this face, and I can press S to scale, and then let's hit Y to scale it on the y-axis, and I'm going to scale that up and make it quite a bit thicker. And then I can tab to go back to object mode. So we are almost done with the base mesh, but I also want to model those fins right there going out of the whale. So I'm going to select the sphere right here, and then I will press the tab key to go into edit mode, and then make sure you are in the face select. So I'm now going to select 6 faces, so I can press the A key to deselect everything. Then I can press the B for the box select, and I'm going to click and drag and just drag a box around those faces. Then I can press S to scale, and let's scale it down on the Z axis a little bit. So I'm now going to press the 7 on the numpad to go to top view, and I'm going to press E to extrude. We're going to extrude this out, and then I can press R to rotate and G to grab. And you can see that it's not actually mirroring over to the other side because we didn't add a mirror modifier, but it's really easy to just use the symmetry in the sculpt mode to mirror it over. So I'm just going to be using that. So I'm going to press the 1 on the numpad to go to the front view. I can press S to scale. Let's scale this down on the Z axis, and then I can press G to grab, and we'll bring this down. Then I can press the 7 on the numpad again to go to the top view, and I can press E to extrude and R to rotate and S to scale and G to grab. We're just going to make that a bit smaller. Let's also press the 1 on the numpad and then G to grab, just kind of move that down there. And then I'm going to press the period on the numpad to zoom into our selection, and I can press E to extrude and then S to scale and R to rotate and G to grab. We're just going to kind of rotate that out there and maybe scale it down a little bit. And then I'm also going to select this face and hold down the shift key and select these other faces, and I can press G to grab, and we're just going to move them up a little bit. And I'm also going to hold down the shift key, select those faces, and press G to grab and make those a little bit thicker. All right, so I can now press the tab key to go back to object mode. So this is very blocky, and so I want to smooth it out. So again, I'm going to press Control 2. That's the 2 on the top of my keyboard, and that's going to add the subdivision surface. And now you can see that is very smooth. Now for sculpting, I do want a lot of detail to work with. So on the levels and viewport right here, I'm going to turn this both up to 3 on the subsurf modifier, and then I'm going to apply the modifier. So I'm going to click on the drop down right here, and I'm going to click on apply. And let's also press Control S to save. So now if I press the tab key to go into edit mode, you can see this is a very subdivided object, and that'll be good for the sculpting. So back in object mode, I'm going to select this object, and then I want to apply both of the modifiers. So I can click on the drop down, click on apply, and then click on the drop down and click on apply. So if I tab into edit mode, you can see that is pretty subdivided. Now you can see these objects are actually separate, and I want to be able to sculpt them together, so I want to join them together. So what I'm going to do is select this object, hold down the shift key, select this object, and then I can press Control J. So Control J is going to join the objects together. And you can see the topology is a bit messed up because there's like this extra topology in here, but we will fix that in the sculpt mode. So let's press the tab key to go back to object mode, and I will press Control S to save. All right, so I'm almost ready to hop over to my drawing tablet. We're about to do the sculpting. So what I'm going to do is just make sure this object is selected, and I'm going to go over to the sculpting tab. So we are now in the sculpting tab, and there's just a few other things that I want to do before I actually start sculpting. So you can see that these objects aren't joined together, and there's this extra topology in here. So I want to fix that. So what I'm going to do is go right up here to these options here. These are the mirror options, and I'm going to click on this drop down arrow right here. Now right down here you can see there is a Symmetrize and a direction. So I'm going to Symmetrize it so that one side will be mirrored over to the other side. So right here on the direction, I want to click on this, and I actually want to change this to the plus X to negative X. So the plus X to the negative X. And that way it's going to take this side, because this is the plus X, and it's going to mirror it over to this side, which is the minus X. So click back over here, and then I'm going to click on Symmetrize. And so it took this half of the mesh and it duplicated it and mirrored it over to this side of the mesh. Now, when I'm sculpting, I want it to be mirrored over to the other side so that when I sculpt over here, it's going to be the same over there. So what I need to do is click on this X symmetry right here. So when I do that, now when I move my mouse, you can see that there's that little blue dot over there as well. And when I click and drag to sculpt, you can see it's mirroring it over to both sides. I'll just press Ctrl Z to undo that. And then there is just a few more settings that I want to play around with in the sculpt mode. So one thing is that I don't want this side panel right here because it kind of just gets in the way. And we also have all the other settings right up here, so we don't really actually need the side panel. So I'm going to click right here and just drag this and make it really small just to get it out of the way. Totally optional, but I just want a little bit more space for sculpting. Now I also want to turn on the Dyn Topo because the Dyn Topo setting is going to add geometry as we sculpt. So I'm going to click on this right here, and this is going to turn on the Dyn Topo, and click on OK. And then right here, if you open up the Dyn Topo settings, the detail size here is going to control how much geometry it actually adds. So I want this to be pretty high detail. So on the detail size right here, I'm going to change this to like a 3, but you don't have to change it to like a 3 because it might be a little bit laggy for your computer with this high of detail. So you could maybe turn it to like a 6 or a 5 or maybe a 4. I'm going to go with a 3. Now you can also see that this still isn't joined together, so I'm going to use the remesh feature to remesh the mesh and join it together. So what I'm first going to do is go to the front here, and then I'm going to press Shift R. So when you press Shift R, make sure you move your mouse over this object and press Shift R. It's going to show you a grid and you can drag your mouse. And so this is how detailed you want it to be. So I want it to be pretty high detail, so I'm going to drag my mouse until it is pretty small and then click to place that. So when we actually remesh it, it's going to be the detail of that grid. So again, I can press Shift R. Shift R will bring up that setting there. And then to actually remesh it, let's actually just press Ctrl S to save the Blender file. And then to remesh it, you're going to press Ctrl R. And so we'll just wait for that to load up, and it did it really fast for me. So now if I zoom in there, you can see that it remeshed it. So it added more detail and it joined that together. So if I now go inside this object, you can see that it is all joined together. And so that'll work really well for the sculpting. And then because we remeshed it, the Dyn Topo got turned off. So let's click right here and turn the Dyn Topo back on. And I'm going to set the detail size to 3. So I'm now going to bring this over to my drawing tablet and we will do the sculpting. So let's get started with the sculpting. Now, one thing that you can do to be able to preview the mesh a little bit better is you can change the matte cap. So this matte cap does look okay, but I actually prefer a different matte cap that makes it a little bit easier to see the shape of the mesh. So if you want to change the matte cap, you can click right here on this arrow, and then you can click right here on the matte caps. Now, I've actually added in a bunch more matte caps, and I've actually created my own matte caps. I have a tutorial on how to create your own matte caps, links in the description if you'd like to check that out. But the matte cap that I'm going to be using is this matte cap right here. So I really like this matte cap for sculpting because I think it allows you to preview the shape of the mesh very well. So my favorite brush is this brush right here. This is the clay strips brush, and this is the brush that I'm going to use for most of the sculpting. And then I'm also going to click right here on the brush settings, and I'm going to click on the front faces only and also make sure that the accumulate is turned on as well. I like to turn on both of those settings. All right, and then really important, make sure the X symmetry is turned on so that it mirrors over from one side to the other. So I first just want to get the general shape. So I have my pen right here, and I'm just going to push down on the drawing tablet, and I'm just going to push along and just start to sculpt that, going back and forth there. So I'm just adding little bits of clay, and we're basically just smoothing that and making it nice and round. So I'm just going along here, just kind of smoothing that out. And then to look around in the 3D space, I just hover my pen over the drawing tablet surface, and then I click and hold down with my front pen button and drag. So again, I'm just hovering my pen over the surface, but I'm not actually pressing down on the tablet. And then I'm clicking and dragging with my front pen button. And then if I want to zoom in and out, I'm going to hold down the Control key and click and drag with my front pen button. And then if I want to pan around, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click and drag with the front pen button. And then I'm going to press down on the drawing tablet surface to actually add clay. So I'm just going to add clay right here, just kind of smooth that out and basically merge both of the shapes together. So I'm just going around here. And again, if this is a little bit too high detail, you can see how high detail that is. If it's a bit too high detail and maybe it's acting a little bit laggy, on the Dyn Topo right here, you could turn the detail size up to maybe just like a 6. And now if I start to add clay there, you can see it's less detailed. I don't like that, and I like it to be a bit higher detailed. So on the Dyn Topo here, I'm going to change this to a 3, but you could totally turn that number up if it's a bit too laggy. So also make sure to press Control S to save as you are sculpting. So I'm just kind of adding more clay here. You can kind of sculpt back and forth. Just sculpt along there. And then you can see that it's very, very rough. So to smooth it out, you could click right over on the smooth brush. The smooth brush is right here. So you could just click on the smooth brush, but instead of that, I'm going to keep the clay strips brush enabled. And then what I'm going to do instead is just hold down the Shift key as I sculpt. So when you hold down the Shift key, that is automatically going to go to the smooth brush. And then I also want to make my brush bigger, so I'm going to just turn the radius up right here. And the shortcut key for changing the radius or the size of the brush is the F key. So press F and then you can change the size of your brush. So then I'm going to again hold down the Shift key and I'm going to go along here. Maybe make the radius a little bit smaller, hold down the Shift key and go along here and just smooth that all out. And then I will press the F key to make my brush smaller, and then let's go along here. And we're going to add more clay right there, and then hold down the Shift key and just kind of smooth that all out there. And then you can see that that is kind of blocky. So let's just go along there and add a little bit of clay, and then hold down the Shift key and just kind of smooth that all out there. Also right here, I want to hold down the Shift key and smooth that all out. So just continue to smooth that, and then add little bits of clay by just kind of dragging with the clay strips. And I am dragging very lightly right around here because I don't want to add a lot of clay. I just want to add a little bit of clay. And I'm going to go back and forth here, kind of adding more clay there. And I'm basically just trying to make this very round because you can see that it is a little bit boxy. So I'm just going around there to make it more round. So kind of right here, I'm going to add more clay to make it round. And then also, if you want to push in and get rid of clay, you can hold down the Control key as you sculpt, and that is going to push in the clay. But then normally, if you just sculpt, that's just going to add clay. And then again, hold down the Shift key as you sculpt, and that's just going to go to the smooth brush, and we can smooth that all out there. All right, just go around here. I'm gonna just kind of go around in circles, kind of smooth that all out, and also smooth this so that it's not quite as boxy. And then also just go back and forth here and add a little bit of clay just to kind of pop that out. So it's not quite as boxy, it's a bit more smooth. Add a bit more clay there, and then hold down the Shift key and go around and smooth that all out. And also don't forget to press Control S to save the project, or click on File and click on Save, just so that if Blender crashes for some reason, we won't lose anything. All right, so I'm now gonna go along here, go along the back of the whale's tail, just kind of add a little bit more clay there, and then hold down the Shift key and smooth that out. And then I'm also going to hold down the Control key and go along here just to kind of flatten that a little bit so it's a bit more circular. All right, and then hold down the Shift key and smooth that all out. And add a little bit more clay here as well, and then hold down the Shift key and just kind of smooth that all out again. All right, let's go up here to kind of the top of the back of the whale and add some more clay here. Just kind of add some clay right there, and then hold down the Shift key and just kind of smooth that all out. And then let's also go right back here, kind of to the center of the whale, and we're going to add a little bit more clay there. Just go along there, add clay, and then again, hold down the Shift key and go back and forth and just smooth that all out. And it's very helpful that we have the mirror because it is mirroring it over to both sides, so we actually only have to sculpt half of the whale, and it'll be mirrored over to the other side. just kind of smoothing this out as well, just kind of making it very round. If there's any lumpy parts, you can add a little bit more clay wherever you need it, and then smooth it out with the shift key. Let's change a little bit more of the shape of the whale. So what I'm going to do is press the G key. So the G key is going to take me to the grab brush. You can see that as the grab brush. So the grab brush will allow us to pull the clay and kind of move it around. So I'm going to look right up here on the top view, and actually what I can do is just press the 7 on the numpad to go to top view. And actually the gizmo might be kind of helpful for this. So I'm actually going to click on this button right here, and that'll turn the gizmo on. And that way I can just click on one of these things if I want to go right up to the orthographic top view or the orthographic side view or front view. So I'm now going to just kind of zoom in there, and I'm going to make sure I am using the grab brush. And I will also press the F key to make my brush bigger or just turn the radius up. So I'm going to grab this and kind of pull it, just kind of pull it over here, and then grab this part of the fin and kind of pull it out a little bit. So we are basically just defining the shape of the fin. So I'll zoom in and use the grab brush and just kind of tap and kind of pull that clay around, kind of bring that back a little bit and bring that out, and then just kind of bring this in a little bit. Also right here on the front, I could also kind of zoom out a little bit farther and just kind of tap and push that out. All right, that's looking pretty good. And then I will also zoom in here, and I'm going to pull this out, just kind of pull that out a little bit farther. Something like that is pretty good. All right, so let's click right back over here to go to the clay strips brush again. And then I'm going to press the F key to just make my brush a little bit smaller. And then I'm just going to go along here, and I'm just going to add more clay in the center there. I'll also press Ctrl S again to save, and I'm adding more clay here in the center just to make it a bit more round, because right now it is a little bit boxy and I want to make it more round. So I'm just going to add more clay there in the center. And you can see the strength is a little bit low, so if you want to, you could turn the strength up on that brush, and that way it'll be a bit more strong. And I'm just going to go along there, go back and forth, just kind of add more clay there, and also add more clay right there. And I will be smoothing it out later, but first I just want to add more clay. All right, let's go and do the same thing for the bottom. So I'm going to just go back and forth and just kind of add more clay, just kind of go along there and add strips of clay. And we're just doing that to make it more round. And then we will smooth it out later, add a bit more clay there and a bit more in the center, something like that. All right, add more clay there, go back and forth there. Now I also want to sharpen the edges. I want to make the edges a bit sharper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here to the crease brush. So the crease brush will allow us to add creases, or we can actually do the opposite of adding creases, so we can actually make the crease come out instead. So what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to press the F key to make my brush a bit bigger. So normally if I just sculpt right here, you can see it's going to make a crease, but if I instead hold down the Control key as I sculpt, that is going to actually pinch it instead. So you can see instead of it creasing in, it's going to pinch out, and that is exactly what I want. So I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to sculpt right there and just kind of bring that out. And then I can also hold down the Shift key and just kind of smooth those parts out a little bit. And then again, hold down the Control key, and we're going to pinch out the edges. So just kind of pinch that out there, go along there, just kind of sharpen that up, go along there, go along the back of the fin, and just kind of pinch that all up right around there and right here. And then I can hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to smooth this all out. So don't smooth it out so much that you just get rid of the detail, because I don't want to get rid of the detail there. I'll press Ctrl Z to undo that. So I just want to smooth it out very lightly, and I want to go along the flat areas. So I'm not going to smooth it directly right here. I'm not going to hold down the Shift key and smooth right there, because that's going to get rid of that detail that we added. I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and lightly sculpt around up here. Then I'm going to navigate down here and hold down the Shift key and just lightly smooth that out. Because again, I don't want to get rid of the detail that we just sculpted. I just want to go along there and smooth out those areas. So I'm going to go along here and just lightly smooth that all out. Kind of zoom out a little bit so I can get more of the area. Just kind of smooth that all out. Let's press Ctrl S again to save. Very good idea to always be saving your project, just in case it crashes for some reason. So holding down the Shift key and kind of smoothing that all out. All right, let's go back up here to the top. So navigate right up here to the top, and then hold down the Shift key, and I'm gonna smooth back and forth there. Just kind of smooth that all out there, and right in here, and hold down the Shift key, just kind of smooth that all there. All right, let's go back up here, see how that is looking. So you can see there's a little bit of a dip right in there. So what I'm going to do is click right back over here on the clay strips, and then I'm just going to go along here and add more clay in there to kind of get rid of that little dip going right in there, and then hold down the shift key and just smooth that all out. And also right over here, I'm just going to add a little bit more clay there, just kind of add some clay along there, and then hold down the shift key and smooth that all out. And then right here, kind of where the fin, the back of the fin meets the body, I'm going to add a little bit of clay there just to kind of bring that together, and then hold down the shift key and smooth that out. And then also right in here, I'm going to hold down the control key and sculpt, and that's going to push in the clay. Just kind of push that in, and then hold down the shift key and smooth that out. And also right down here, I think I will hold down the control key and just kind of make that a little bit sharper, and then hold down the shift key and smooth that out a little bit. And then right here on the front of the fin, kind of connecting there to the body, I will add a little bit more clay there, and then again use the shift key to smooth that out, and also smooth this part out a little bit, because right here this is like the crease on the front of it, so I do just want to smooth this out a little bit. So smooth that out. All right, that is looking pretty good. Just kind of navigate around. It's always good to be moving around and looking at your sculpt from different angles to make sure you're getting the shapes right. And then right here, you can see that that is a little bit thin. So what I'm going to do is press the G key to go to the grab brush, and I will zoom out, and then I'm just going to bring that out a little bit, just because I think that should be a little bit thicker. I don't want it to be quite that thin, so I'm just going to make that a little bit thicker. And you can also just kind of tap around if you want to play around with the shape a little bit. So let's now navigate to the top of the whale, and I want to create the hole where the spout is. So I'm going to go right here to the clay strips brush, and I'm going to zoom in to the top. And I will press the F key to make my brush smaller. And then what I'm going to do is hold down the control key, and I'm going to go around in a circle and just start to put that there, and then just kind of look around and make sure that is where you want it. I think I'm actually going to press Control Z to undo that, and I'm going to go a little bit closer kind of towards the front of the whale and do that again. So I think that is a pretty good spot. Yeah, right there. So I'm going to zoom back in here, and actually it's easier to use the draw brush. So I'm going to be using the draw brush, and then hold down the control key, and that way when you sculpt, it's going to go in, and I'm going to make that pretty deep there. So just kind of sculpt in there and make it pretty deep. And then you can also hold down the shift key and just kind of smooth out that opening there just a little. So just kind of sculpt that in there, and then hold down the shift key and smooth it out. And then let's also sculpt a hole for the eye, and then we will be adding a different eye object. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to place the eye about here. So I'm going to hold down the control key and go around in a circle so that I can sculpt in. And let me just make sure that is a good spot. I think that's a pretty good spot. Maybe just bring it a little bit more forward and a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go along there, holding down the control key and sculpting in there, and then holding down the shift key and smoothing that out a little bit. We're just going to make an eye hole there, and then we will place an eye object in there. And I think I want to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to hold down the control key and go along there, just make it a little bit bigger. And then I can also press the G key. The G key is going to take us to the grab brush, and I can just kind of tap around there and just kind of make the shape of that. So I want it to be pretty round and a little bit bigger, something like that. And then let's also add the eyebrow. So I'm going to go right back over here to the clay strips brush, and then I'm going to zoom in here, and right kind of along here, I'm just going to go back and forth, maybe make my brush a little bit bigger with the F key, and then just go along here, and I'm just going to make an eyebrow kind of popping out there. And then we will be texture painting it later and making it like a dark color so it stands out. All right, so going along there, make my brush a little bit bigger, just kind of popping that out there. Let's see how that's looking. That's pretty cool. And then I'm just going to hold down the shift key and very lightly just kind of smooth that out. I don't want to smooth it too much, but just a little bit. So something like that. And then I can also click right here and go to the crease brush, and then I'm going to press the F key to make my brush smaller. And then I'm just going to sculpt here, and by using the crease brush, that's going to crease it in a little bit, and I can just define that shape a little bit better. So I'm just going along there, creasing it, and then holding down the shift key and just smoothing that out a tiny little bit. All right, zoom out there, see how that's looking? That is pretty good. So let's now do the whale's mouth. So what I'm going to do is use the crease brush again, and I'm just going to start by creasing where I want the mouth to be. So I'm going to go right here to the center, and I'm going to zoom in, and I want the mouth to kind of start about here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, start by creasing. I can also press the F key to make my brush smaller, and I'm just going to crease in there, and it's going to start by going down a little bit, and I'm going to continue to crease, and I'm going to go along here, and then I want the mouth to kind of come up. So first it's going to go down and then it's going to come up. And I think I want that to be a little bit higher. So that's why I'm creasing it very lightly so that I can adjust it if I need to. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, just kind of smooth that out and just kind of take a look at this and see how you like for the expression. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to also crease right here, right underneath the eyeball. So we're going to crease right there and just kind of make the end of the mouth. And then once you like where that is placed, you can go back and you can crease that in and make that a little bit stronger. And also I think I'll make the strength a little bit bigger of this brush here and press the F key to make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm just going to crease right in there. All right, crease in there, make that crease a bit stronger and go along there as well. And right in here, also just crease right there on the side of the mouth to kind of give him that little cartoony, stylized smiley face. And if you need to adjust the shape of this, you can press the G key. That'll take you to the grab brush, and then you can just kind of tap around and just play around with the shape of that and play around with the location if you want to change that. All right, so now I want to give just a little bit of thickness to the lips. So I'm going to go right here to the clay strips brush, and then I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to start by going back and forth. And actually you could also go side to side. That might help as well. I think going back and forth or up and down works pretty well. And I'm just going to go back and forth, and I'm just going to make that lip a little bit thick there. And we're going to do that for the top and the bottom. So the top lip will be pretty thin. So I think I'll just go along here and just add a very subtle bump there along there. But then on the bottom, especially right here in the center, I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker. So just go along there, just kind of go up and down. Just add clay there and make that thicker. Kind of zoom out and look around and see how the shape of that is. See if you like that. And then I do want to add just a tiny little bit of a chin. So I'm going to hold down the control key and just go along here and just kind of push that chin in just a tiny bit. And then maybe also just add a tiny bit of clay right here just to kind of make that bump out a little bit. But then hold down the control key, kind of push in a little chin there, and then hold down the shift key and kind of smooth that out. Smooth that out down there. All right, let's go back up here. So I want to continue to add more clay there. Just pop out that lip a little bit. And also right here, I'll just pop the lip out a little bit. I'm also going to hold down the control key and just add a tiny little bit of an indent right there in the center. And then hold down the shift key and just smooth it out. All right, so let's go down here. I'm actually going to do it over on this side. So I'm just going to go down here and go along this and just kind of pop that out. Go along there. Go along there and over here as well. We're just going to connect that up. So just go along there and give that a little bit of a bump there and move around and look at it from different angles to make sure you're getting that shape correct. And then just go along here up and down, adding some clay. Let's go way over here and just kind of pop that out a little bit. So I'm just going back and forth or up and down and just adding a little bit of clay there. Just kind of popping that out. All right, let's press Control S again to save the project. And then I'm also going to hold down the Shift key and just lightly smooth it out. I don't want to get rid of all the shapes that we added, but you can see it's very rough in there. So I'm just very lightly pressing down on the drawing tablet surface and just smoothing that out just a little and smooth that out as well. And then I'm going to go back here and just kind of add a little bit more clay there and then hold down the Shift key and smooth it out. And something else that I want to do just to make sculpting a little bit easier is I'm going to press the N key. The N key is going to open up the side panel, and I'm going to click right here on the view. So click on the view one, and then on the focal length right here, I prefer to use like a value of 80. That's just going to make everything a little bit more flat, and I can see the shapes a little bit better. I think it's a bit nicer. So I'll press the N key to close the side panel. I just like 80, the focal length of 80. I think it looks a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to continue to sculpt here. Of course, that's totally optional. You don't have to if you don't want to. So I'm going to just make that a little bit thicker, go along here, just pop that out just a little bit and then smooth it out. All right, and then let's finish the top lip. So I just want to add a little bit more bump to that. So I'm going to go along here, go along the top lip and just add a little bit more there, add a little bit more clay and also around there. And then hold down the Shift key and smooth that out just a little bit. And I'm just pressing very lightly because I do want to smooth it out, but I don't want to get rid of all the shape. I just want to smooth out kind of those rough bits right there. So I'm just going along there and smoothing that out. Just going along there, smoothing that all out there. All right, and then in the center there, I want to crease that back in a little bit more. So I'm going to go right here to the crease brush again, and I'm going to just crease it even stronger. So push in there just kind of crease that in even stronger. You can press the F key to make your brush bigger, and then just crease that in there because I do want to crease it in a little bit more. So I'll just go along here and crease that all in. Almost done there. And then you can, if you want to, if it's a little bit rough, you can hold down the shift key and just very lightly just tap around there, or just click and drag or press and drag and just smooth that out a tiny bit if you want to. All right, and then right over here, kind of on the mouth, on the side of the mouth, I want to actually go right here to the clay strips, and I'm gonna go along here and just add a little bit more clay there. Just kind of pop that out and then hold down the shift key and smooth it out a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna call the whale's mouth finished. Let's press Control S again to save. And so now I wanna go and just kind of finish up the tail. So let's navigate right over here. We're gonna go to the back of the tail and let's start to sculpt this. So I wanna make it a bit more round. So I'm gonna add some more right in here and add some more clay in the center there just to make that a bit more round. Just adding more clay there. Hold down the shift key, just kind of smooth that out. And then we're gonna do the same thing where we use the crease brush and kind of crease out those edges. First though, I wanna play around with the shape a little bit. So I'm going to press the G key, or you can click right here to go to the grab brush. And then with the grab brush, you can just kind of tap along the sides. And we're just gonna play around with the shape. So I wanna make this kind of come out and be a bit more straight and have it come down a little bit. And then I wanna pop this out a little bit as well. And also right here, just kind of push this in a little bit as well. Push that in there, and then also right in the center there, push that, kind of make that a bit sharper. So I can pull it in, kind of pull it down in the center, and then on the sides I can just kind of tap and push that out, just kind of push it together a little bit and also bring that out a little bit. All right, that's pretty good. So let's go back over here to the clay strips brush, and then I'm gonna go along here and give that a little bit more thickness and make it a bit more round. So go along there and go down, and then hold down the shift key and kind of smooth that all out there. And smooth it out there. All right, smooth that all out. I need to add a little bit more clay there, so a little bit more detail. So I'm gonna go along here and just kind of add a little bit more detail because you can see it's not very detailed there. It's kind of blocky. So I'm gonna add a little bit more clay, add a bit more clay there, and then hold down the shift key and just kind of smooth that out there. All right, and smooth that out. All right, let's add a little bit more clay as well, and then smooth that out. And right down here, I'll add a little bit more clay here to add a bit more detail to it, and then smooth it out. All right, like that. Okay, let's take a look at that shape. I think that is pretty good. So now what I want to do is click right back over here on the crease brush. And again, if you just normally crease, it's going to crease in. So if you hold down the Control key as you sculpt, it's going to kind of pinch it and bring it out. So I'm going to do that all along the edge here. So I'm just going to pinch that edge there, just kind of pinch it so it'll come out and be a bit more sharp of an edge. I'm just going to pinch that by holding the Control key with the crease brush and just kind of crease that out. All right, so you can see now that is a bit more sharp, and then you can hold down the shift key and very lightly smooth out anything if you need to, but I don't want to get rid of the detail that I just added, but I am just going to lightly smooth that out there. Smooth this out a little bit, and I think right in here as well, I need to crease it just a little bit more, and then kind of smooth out both sides. So smooth out that side, and just kind of smooth out that side. All right, and with the tail all sculpted, this is it for the whale's body. So I am going to just go right back over here to the layout. And I will press Control S again to save. And so what I'm going to be doing now is just modeling the base mesh for the water, which is coming out of the spout of the whale. And then we will do a little bit of sculpting to sculpt that as well. So let's press Shift A, and I'm going to go right here and I'm going to add a cylinder. Now right behind me, if you open up the add cylinder settings, just click on that. Right here on the vertices, I'm just going to change this to like a 12, and that way it won't have quite as much detail because we don't need that much detail. And then I can close the add cylinder settings. So I'm now going to press S to scale, and we're going to scale this down, and then I can press G to grab, and let's bring this up on the Z axis. I'll kind of zoom in here, just zoom in there, and I will scale this down even more and just stick it right in there in the spout and just kind of bring it down. And then what I can do is I can press the tab key to go into edit mode and make sure you are using the face select. And I'm just going to select this face, and then I can press E to extrude, and we're going to extrude the water up there. Let's press S to scale, and we're going to scale that up a bit. Then I can press E to extrude again and S to scale again. We're going to scale that up, and then I want to rotate this over, and we're going to create one blob of water, and then we will duplicate that and and make some other blobs of water. So I'm going to just kind of press R to rotate and G to grab, just kind of move that over. Then let's press E to extrude and R to rotate and G to grab, and then E to extrude and R to rotate and G to grab. We're going to stick that there, maybe scale it up a little bit more. E to extrude and S to scale and R to rotate and G to grab, just doing some basic modeling, and then E to extrude and S to scale, and we're going to scale that down. Now if I press the tab key to go back into object mode, you can see it is not very smooth. So let's press Control 2, and Control 2 is going to add the Subdivision Surface modifier with 2 levels, and then again using the Object Context menu, I can shade that smooth. Alright, so now I want to duplicate this bit of water, and I'm going to make some more of them. So I'm going to press the tab key to go back into edit mode, and I want to click right here to go to the vertex select mode. So I can hold down the Z button, go to wireframe and let go, and I can now press the B key for the box select, and I'm going to drag a box around these vertices. I can hold down the Z key, go back into the solid view, and I'm going to navigate up here to the top. Let me make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, and then R to rotate, and G to grab, and I'm just going to move this over and kind of stick it here, and then I can also hold down the Alt key, and then Alt and select that loop of vertices. I can scale it down and stick it inside there, just kind of scale it down a bit. Alright, so making sure that is inside there, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to just hover my mouse over this little piece of water, and I'm going to press the L key, and that is going to select all the linked vertices. And then up here on top view, I can press Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate, G to grab, move it over, and then S to scale that up a little bit, and just kind of bring it in there, stick it in there. Let's also hold down the Alt key and select that loop of vertices, and I can press R to rotate and S to scale and stick it down there. So press the tab key to go back to object mode, and you can see we've just created some basic water. So I'm now going to be sculpting this as well. So I first need to apply the Subdivision Surface modifier. So I'm going to click right here and then click on apply. And then with this object selected, I can go back to the sculpting layout. Now, just like we did with this other object, we need to remesh this so that these are joined together. So just go to the front view, and then I'm going to press Shift R. Shift R will bring up that grid there, and you can just make it pretty detailed. I'm going to make it pretty detailed, so maybe something like that. And then after you do that, you can press Control R. So Control R is going to actually remesh it. And now if you zoom in there, you can see that is joined together. So now let's click on the Dyn Topo. So click on that button to turn it on. And I want the detail size to be set to 3. And then I don't want to have any of the mirroring because I don't want to mirror it over because it's going to be different on the different sides. All right, so I'm going to move my mouse and keyboard out of the way and bring my drawing tablet back. All right, so let's sculpt this now. So I'm going to press the G key to go to the grab brush, and then I can just kind of play around with the shape of this. So I'm just going to kind of bring these a bit more down, kind of bring them a bit down, maybe bring this a bit more up just to make that a bit stronger of a shape. All right, navigate right over here. Let's bring this down and bring this up, kind of bring that up as well. Just kind of make it look like water, some kind of stylized cartoony water. Maybe pull these down just to make them a bit sharper. Let's go right here as well. Just kind of pull this down, maybe push that up a little bit. And then let's click right here to go to the clay strips brush. And you can see that there's kind of a problem there. There's kind of some sharpness. So I'm just going to go along here with the clay strips brush and add more clay. Just kind of smoothing that out because this is water. So it's going to be very smooth and the edges are going to blend together. So I'm just going to add a lot more clay there. Add a bunch more clay around there. So I'm just kind of going around in circles and adding a lot of clay there, just making that nice and smooth. And I can click on this Z button right here, and that is going to take me to the top orthographic. And then I can go along here and add more clay there. Just kind of add some clay there in the center, and then hold down the Shift key and make that nice and smooth. So just hold down the Shift key, go all along there, and just kind of smooth out anything which is rough, because this is water, so it's going to be pretty smooth. And then you can see like there are some sharp areas right there. You can see there's some little lines. So just kind of go along there. You can even zoom out and just go along there and add clay around there just to kind of smooth that out. And then hold down the Shift key, go around in circles and kind of smooth that all out, because I do want it to be pretty smooth. You can go along here on this side, add a lot more clay there, kind of go back and forth there. And then hold down the Shift key and kind of smooth that all out there. So I'm going to continue to do that for the other ones. So we'll smooth that out as well. Just kind of holding down the Shift key to smooth. And then to add more clay, I can just sculpt along there and add more clay. I'm going to go back and forth, just go along those bits of water, just add a lot more clay there, and then hold down the shift key and go back and forth and just kind of smooth that all out there. Just making sure it's very smooth because this is water, so it's going to be pretty smooth. It's going to be pretty round, so kind of smoothing that all out. And I do think I want the ends here to be a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here and go to the inflate brush. So if I press F, that's going to make my brush size bigger. And then with the inflate brush, I can just go along here, and that's just going to kind of beef it up, make it a bit bigger, and just kind of inflate it. So you can see now it's much more blobby. And I do think that looks a bit better, a bit more stylized. So I'm just going to go along here and just kind of buff that up, kind of make it more round and blobby. And on this one as well, using that inflate brush just to inflate that up, kind of like a balloon, and maybe just inflate this just a little bit. So I'm just kind of going back and forth here along the water and then holding down the shift key and smoothing it out. All right, and that is going to be it for the sculpting of the water. So I'm going to go right back over here to the layout. I'll press Control S to save. So I am finished with the sculpting. So I'm going to go back over to my keyboard and mouse. So this part has been going on pretty long. So I am going to be splitting this tutorial up into two parts. So I'm just going to finish up the modeling in this part. And then the next part, we're going to do the texture painting and the lighting and the materials and the rendering. So there's just two more things I need to do to finish up the modeling. I want to add some little water droplets that are kind of coming down here. And then I also need to model the eye. So first let's model the eye. So to model the eye, I'm going to press Shift A. Let's go right here to mesh, and I'm going to go right down here and add a UV sphere. And then I'm going to use the object context menu to shade this smooth. And then in object mode, I'm just going to press G to grab and then S to scale. We can scale this down, and I'm going to scale it down even more, and I'll press G to grab, and we're going to stick it right in there. So we're going to stick it right in there in the whale's eye socket. I can press the period on the numpad to zoom into it. And also I do just want to make it a little bit more smooth. So right here on the modifiers, I'm going to click on add modifier, and we can go right down here and add the subdivision surface, or you can use the shortcut key, which is Control 2. All right, just kind of bring that out. And also you can see that these parts that we've sculpted are kind of rough. They're not very smooth. So just press the A key to select everything. And then using the object context menu, I'm going to click on Shade Smooth. All right, so we now have that little eye there. Now the eye isn't mirrored over to the other side, so I'm going to add a mirror modifier. So let's click on add modifier, and I'm going to go right down here and add the mirror modifier. Now, because the object's origin is in the very center there, you're not able to see it mirroring because it's basically just duplicating it and putting it on top of itself because the origin is in the very center. So instead of it mirroring right here where the origin is, I want it to mirror in the center of the whale. So what I'm going to do is go to the mirror object. I'm going to click on this eyedropper, and then I can click on this object right here, the whale, and now it is mirroring it over to the other side. So that is what I want. All right, just press Control S again to save, and there's just one more thing I'm going to do in this part. I'm going to be modeling some water droplets. So I'm going to press Shift A. Let's go here to mesh, and I'm going to go right down here and add a UV sphere. I can press G to grab, hit Z to bring it up on the Z axis, and then I can press S and we're going to scale that down. And then you can see it is kind of blocky, so using the object context menu, I can just shade that smooth. So now I want to bring the top of it up to make it look like a little water droplet. So I'm going to press the tab key to go into edit mode, and then I'm just going to select that top vertex. Now to pull along more vertices with it, I'm going to press the O key, or you can also click right here, and this is going to turn on the proportional editing. So now that that is turned on, I can press G to grab, and then I can hit the Z key to bring it up on the Z axis. Now, if I scroll my scroll wheel, I can change the size of the proportional editing, and you can see that very quickly and easily, I can just change the size of the proportional editing to choose how much geometry I want to be pulled along with it, click to place it, and you can see we now have a basic water droplet. And then I'm going to turn the proportional editing off, and I can press G and Z, and we're going to bring that up there so it's pretty sharp. All right, there we go. So we have a basic water droplet, and I think I will back in edit mode and just hold down the Alt key and then select right there, and that's going to select that loop of vertices. And I can press S to scale, and we can scale that down a little bit, and then tab back into object mode. Now I want them to be the same object. I want both of these water objects to be the same object. So I'm going to select this object and then hold down the Shift key and select this object. and then I can press Control J, and Control J will join them together. Then I can press the Tab key, and that's going to go into edit mode, and I can press A to deselect everything, and then I can hover my mouse over this object and press the L key, and that is going to select all of the linked vertices by hitting the L key. Then I can press S to scale and G to grab, and we're just going to stick this right down there and just kind of rotate it over. Now I also want to create one water droplet which is kind of rotating a little bit, so let's press Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to bring this water droplet over here, and I'm going to zoom in. So I'm now going to select this vertex right here, and then again I want to press the O key. The O key will turn on the proportional editing. So I can now press R to rotate, but I want to scroll my mouse wheel and just kind of make that smaller, and I just want to rotate that a little bit, and then press G to grab, kind of bring that over, and press R to rotate and G to grab, and we're just kind of rotating that over. You can also play around with the shape of it, and we're just making one of those water droplets which is rotated, and then I can click right here to turn off the proportional editing. So then with your mouse hovered over the object, you can press the L key, and that's going to select all the linked vertices, and I can press G to grab. I can also press the 7 on the numpad, and that's going to go to top view, and then I can press R to rotate and G to grab, and I'm just going to stick one of these here, and then to duplicate these you can press Shift D. So Shift D is going to duplicate your selection, and then I can rotate this and just kind of stick it into place. So I'm going to make a few of these just kind of randomly around, just pressing Shift D to duplicate and then rotating this around to make it look like there are some water droplets. And I think I will move this one over here, rotate that around, so just kind of duplicate the water droplets and put them around. And I want to duplicate the straight water droplet, so I'm going to press the A key to deselect everything, and then press the L key with your mouse hovered over this object, and I can press Shift D to duplicate. I think I'll scale this one down a little bit, and then kind of rotate it and move it around. I'm going to tab to go back to object mode, see how that is looking. Maybe bring that over, and then I'll press Shift D to duplicate. Maybe actually put this one right over here. And then I want to duplicate another one of these curved ones. So with your mouse hovered over the object, you can press the L key. That'll select the linked vertices. Maybe bring that down, and I can press Shift D to duplicate. Go up here to the top view. I can press R to rotate and G to grab. And I'm going to stick another one kind of right there. So you can just continue to duplicate those water droplets and just kind of move them around. And when you're all finished, you can just press the Tab key to go back into object mode. I'm just going to press Control S again to save. And this is it for the modeling. So the modeling is now finished. So this video has been going on for quite a while. So I'm going to break up this tutorial into 2 parts. So in the next part, in part 2, we are going to be preparing the model for texture painting. Then we will be doing the texture painting, and then after we do the texture painting, we'll set up the lighting and do the materials and then render it out and get the finished image. So thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you have been enjoying this so far, and when part 2 is released, I will throw it right up there on the end screen, and I will also have the link in the video description. And if you'd like to help support me and this channel, you can also check out my Gumroad store and Patreon page. Those are great ways to help support the channel. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in part 2.